The winter wind cut sharply through the empty streets as 12-year-old Tommy clutched his last $10. Ahead, a small German shepherd lay on the icy sidewalk, paw injured, shivering uncontrollably. Hunger gnawed at his stomach, but his heart ached more for the helpless creature. Ignoring his own needs, he handed over his last money to buy food and supplies for the trembling dog. Its wide, fearful eyes met his, trust forming despite pain and cold. In that instant, compassion outweighed survival. That single act of selflessness would not only save a life, but forge a bond that would transform both their futures forever. The bitter winter wind cut through the empty streets as 12-year-old Tommy hunched beneath a tattered coat, teeth chattering and stomach growling. His worn shoes crunched against the icy pavement, each step a reminder of hunger and exhaustion. In his pocket, he clutched his last $10, the only thing standing between him and a meager meal or a night without food. Every passing adult blurred past him, faces hidden behind scarves, eyes avoiding his presence. Tommy's mind raced with options. Should he buy something for himself to stave off hunger, or save the money for emergencies? Each choice carried weight, but his heart pulled him in a different direction. Compassion, something bigger than himself, stirred inside him, quiet yet persistent. He had learned early that small acts could sometimes make a huge difference, though he never expected today's test. Ahead, a whimper caught his attention. Squinting against the pale winter sun, he spotted a small German shepherd lying on the frozen sidewalk, paw injured, formatted with ice and dirt. The dog's wide eyes pleaded silently for help, trembling violently in the cold. Hunger and fear competed with empathy, but the choice became clear. His last $10 would go toward helping this helpless creature, no matter the cost to himself. To end that frozen moment, Tommy's compassion outweighed his own survival, setting the stage for a chain of events that would change both their lives forever. Tommy knelt beside the small German shepherd, his breath visible in the frigid air. The dog whimpered softly, ears pressed back, paw trembling as if it could not bear the weight of the world. Its fur was coated in frost, and the icy ground had made it shiver uncontrollably. Tommy could feel his heart tightening as he reached out slowly, letting the dog sniff his hand, careful not to scare it further. The puppy's eyes, wide and full of fear, met his gaze. The dog tilted its head, hesitant, as if testing the boy's sincerity. Every instinct told Tommy to move cautiously. One wrong step could send the frightened animal fleeing or into further pain. Yet compassion pushed him forward, overriding his own fear and uncertainty. Nearby, a thin layer of snow and ice glistened in the winter sun, and Tommy could see footprints leading to and from the spot where the dog had been left. Whoever had abandoned it had shown no care, leaving the puppy defenseless in the cold. Tommy's chest ached. He knew that survival depended not only on warmth and shelter, but on immediate care and reassurance. Taking a deep breath, Tommy resolved to act. He would spend his last $10 to help this innocent creature, knowing that every second mattered. The bond of trust between boy and dog began forming in that frozen, fleeting moment. Tommy carefully retrieved the last $10 from his pocket, feeling its weight in his palm. Hunger gnawed at his stomach, but he pushed the feeling aside, focusing entirely on the trembling dog. He entered the small convenience store nearby, eyes scanning quickly for anything that could help: bandages, clean cloth, and a can of food. The cashier raised an eyebrow at the boy's worn coat and pale face, but Tommy barely noticed. "Please, just what I need to help this dog," he murmured softly, placing the bills on the counter. Returning to the frozen street, Tommy knelt again, speaking gently to calm the terrified animal. He carefully wrapped the injured paw in the cloth, soothing the dog with quiet words and slow movements. The dog flinched initially, but gradually relaxed as he sensed Tommy's compassion. Each bandage applied, each whispered reassurance, strengthened the fragile trust forming between them. Tommy used the can of food to coax the dog into eating, watching as its tail twitched tentatively. The warmth of kindness began to outweigh the cold and fear, tiny steps of recovery. He felt a swelling sense of pride, knowing that his small sacrifice might save the puppy's life. In the biting wind, the boy and the dog huddled together, two fragile beings united by vulnerability and compassion. Tommy realized that this was no ordinary act of kindness. It was a choice that would define them both. With the injured dog carefully wrapped in his coat, Tommy began the slow trek toward the local animal shelter. The snow crunched beneath his worn shoes, each step heavy but purposeful. The biting wind made him shiver, but he ignored his own discomfort, focusing entirely on keeping the dog warm and calm. Its head rested against his shoulder, eyes blinking slowly, beginning to trust this small, determined human. The streets were nearly empty, the city quiet in the late afternoon. Every step required careful balance, yet each movement brought them closer to safety. Occasionally, the dog whimpered, and Tommy whispered soothingly, "Almost there, little one. Just a little farther." The simple words, coupled with the boy's gentle hands, reassured the frightened animal. Passers-by paused to watch, some offering curious glances, others shaking their heads in sympathy. One woman called out softly, asking if he needed help. Tommy shook his head, determination clear in his eyes. This was his mission, his choice, and he would see it through. By the time the shelter came into view, Tommy's legs ached, and his fingers were numb, but hope glimmered in his chest. The dog, sensing the approaching safety, wagged its tail slightly, a tiny spark of trust illuminating its fearful eyes. In that moment, boy and dog became inseparable, bound by compassion and courage. Tommy entered the shelter, cradling the trembling dog carefully in his arms. Staff rushed over immediately, eyes widening at the sight of the tiny, injured creature wrapped in a coat. "We'll take care of him," one of the volunteers said gently, motioning to a warm area prepared for emergency intake. Tommy placed the dog down carefully, brushing snow from its fur, whispering soothing words. The little animal pressed against his chest one last time before curling up on a soft blanket. The vet examined the dog, treating its injured paw and checking for other injuries. Tommy watched anxiously, hands gripping the edge of the table. The puppy's whimpers gradually softened as warmth and gentle care replaced cold and fear. Staff complimented Tommy on his patience and kindness. Amazed that such a young boy had acted with such compassion and resolve, as the dog began to eat and rest, the bond between boy and animal grew stronger. Each tentative wag of the tail, each careful sniff toward Tommy, reinforced the connection forged in the snow. The shelter staff shared stories of other rescues, but Tommy's devotion stood out. A clear example of innocence and empathy. By the end of the day, the dog had been cleaned, warmed, and given food, beginning the slow recovery process. Tommy smiled, heart swelling with pride. His last $10 had not only saved a life, but created a lasting bond of trust and hope. Months passed, and the small dog that Tommy had rescued flourished under the shelter's care. Its fur was glossy, eyes bright, and tail wagging with confidence, a stark contrast to the frightened, trembling animal he had found in the snow. Tommy visited often, watching as the dog grew stronger, responding to gentle commands, and bonding with him more each day. Their connection, forged in adversity, had deepened into an unbreakable friendship. The story of Tommy and the rescued dog spread quickly throughout the community. Social media posts shared photos of the boy cradling the tiny, once injured animal, and neighbors spoke of his bravery and compassion. Donations poured into the shelter, volunteers offered their time, and local businesses helped fund care for other animals in need. Tommy's selfless act inspired everyone who heard about it, showing that even small gestures of kindness could have profound impact. Eventually, the dog was adopted into a loving home. But Tommy remained a guiding presence in its life, visiting frequently, offering care, and enjoying the bond that had transformed both their worlds. He learned that compassion, courage, and sacrifice could create change far greater than money or fame.